And welcome back to a brand new episode of the Cinema Recall podcast. I am, of course, one of your hosts, the Vern. Ashley is still sleeping from our time at Twin Cities Con. We're going to be releasing our episodes about what happened during that wild weekend because a lot of great things happened to us there. Plus, don't forget to follow us on all your favorite social media apps. Instagram, we're still on Twitter, Facebook. You can listen to us on all your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, Good Pods, Podchaser, YouTube. Appreciate all your support and help very much there. Our show is being sponsored by Magic Mind, magicmind.com/cinema recall. Get yourself a discount on their brand new and I'll go into some more here, productivity shots, alright? I'll give more information about them later, but use the code Cinema Recall 20 to get yourself a discount on the new productivity shots there. But I am joined today by documentary and filmmaker and a wonderful cool cat. He did a documentary all about Fat Rex Records. I call it Fat Rex, and he has a new documentary all about audio dramas, Age of Audio. Please welcome to the show, Shaun Colon.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. One minor correction. Shaun Colon, like the fragrance. There's an accent on the second O that makes it smell better.
Cologne. Cologne. Oh, jeez. Oh.
No, you're okay, man.
Hey,
I
think we lost you.
Am I here? Hello? Can you hear me? Check. Can you hear me?
You're coming. You're coming in good. Now you're choppy. Now I can't. Plus, I can't see you.
Oh no! Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Can you see me?
I see you, but you're only like a still image. I feel like I'm talking to you via like the past, like one of those old video games where the full motion video wasn't put together.
Interesting.
Well,
let's see.
That's okay. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Let me come back. Let's see. How about? Because it's now I lost you. Maybe I can find a different spot. Let me see a different spot. I have full bars, but let me see. Let me move into a different place.
It's like you're.
Let's see if that helps at all. Let's move a slightly different place. Maybe I'll get a different, stronger connection. I know on the Riverside it shows 19% on my upload side. I don't know if that has to do with connectivity or what. So let's see. Let's just move around here and see if we get a better connection. I'm driving now, Vern.
And I don't know how different it worked. Oh, you're driving, okay. Yeah, I don't know exactly how this program works between laptop and the phones, because I'm recording my section on my laptop.
Right.
And you're using the app on the phone to record it. So I'm not quite sure.
Are you still can't see me?
But
you still can't see me,
I can
right?
see you, but you... No, I can see you.
But it's choppy.
You kind of come in, your audio comes a little choppy.
Do you want to...
Say something now.
Do you want to try a restart and see if we can get a better connection?
We can do that. Well, actually, we can just kind of keep going from here, and
has it gotten any better?
I most likely would just do... It's getting better. What I most likely do is that you don't have to have the camera. I'm most likely going to be releasing this, most likely maybe just as an audio episode.
But I'm so pretty.
Because the video's...
see my great jawline.
You're pretty. You're... But the...
I'm just kidding. I'm down for whatever, man.
But no, you're...
Is it a little better
Okay,
now?
yeah, because the video is just kind of... It's a little better there, but it is kind of coming in just like a little bit choppy to use for...
No, I get you. So let me see if this looks like it's getting better. It's showing a higher percentage. I don't know what that means exactly, but maybe I was
That's
in
good.
a high concentrated area, and it was like the cell phone connection wasn't as good. So I'm like moving to it seems to keep going up.
Okay. Well,
Is it better now? Are we doing?
it's a lot better now, man. All right. Well, these things happen on the show. I don't feel like really just starting this recording over again
No,
because I'm
that's fine.
afraid we're gonna have things happen here. So we're just gonna go through this. This is gonna be exclusively for our Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/CinemaRetailPod. This is where you get the full, unedited episodes of this podcast. You get to see what goes on during the making of a show, right? It's not as easy as you think it is, folks, okay? This shit is difficult. But welcome, Shaun Colon, to the Cinema Recall Podcast. Thank you very much for being here, bud. I got introduced to you through our good buddy Chris Revel of Let's Chat with Chris Revel and Let's Chat Media, and he told me all about the first feature. When he did many other movies here, he told me about A Fat Wreck.
Yeah, A Fat
Which
Wreck.
is all about.
That one's out right now. You can watch it on Tubi or
Yep.
what is it? Roku channel but that's with ads. If you want to rent it, it's on all the major things. iTunes, Amazon Prime. Or if you can't afford it and you don't like ads, someone can email me and I'll send them a copy of the movie. I mean, a digital copy.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So,
but if find it on Tubi, find Pluto there. But that's a really great one, all about the early history of Fat Rex Records, owned by Fat Mike from NoFX. Just really quickly, Shaun, how did you get involved with that documentary?
Well, it's kind of a long story. Do we have some time?
Yeah, just okay. The short version.
We just started making it, and we continue to make it. We literally just started making it, and it just kept going. Like, we interviewed our friends, but the connection is I've been an audio engineer for a long time, and me and my buddy had recorded with Joey Cape of Lagwagon fame when he was coming through town for free. So I kind of knew him, and then later on when I got into film, I thought we were kind of figuring out what to do as like a first thing to do, like a documentary short that we could make that we kind of cared about. And at the time I was like, no one had ever talked about Fat Records before. And I, at that point, had recorded with at least one person from Fat Records, so I figured we had a pretty good opportunity. Because of that, Joey Cape recording at our studio, a couple years after that, he accidentally emailed me as part of like a Lagwagon tour thing. Oh. And on that email thread was Fat Mike's email, Chris, why I was saying, from the Foo Fighters, Chris, why am I spacing on his name? The guitarist for the Foo Fighters. His email, a bunch of other guys. So when we decided to make this thing, we just really started making it. I went to Punk Rock Bowling and asked a few people to do some interviews, and they did. And then I emailed Fat Mike before we put it out, because I had his email. I was like, hey, we made this thing, and he goes, looks cool. So I figured he'd be cool with us putting it out. And then a couple months later, NoFX was coming to Dallas, so I asked him to do an interview for the thing, and he did. And then we did a crowdfunding thing, and it went really well. And then the film got picked up, and it got distributed, and we was in a bunch of film festivals, and then Blu-ray and digital and all that kind of fun stuff. So there you go. Was that short enough?
That's cool. Oh, yeah. Chris Shiflett from...
Chris Shiflett, yeah. Chris Shiflett.
Shiflett, yeah. All right. Very cool. No, that's very cool. And it's got to be very difficult to try to get... Was it difficult to try to find distributors to find your movie, too? Was that a difficult part? I mean, to shop it around, going festival to festival, or...
No.
Was it a long process?
No, that part was the easy part. Making the movie was really hard.
Oh, okay.
And raising money and doing the crowdfunding thing was really hard. But because our crowdfunding thing, like when we launched, we were asking for $7,500 to do, because at that time it was going to be a short.
Mm-hmm.
and we hit that goal in 24 hours. And then we raised, and so we went able to raise like $34,000. We got a lot of press, so we were being. So I had distributors reaching out right away before the movie even existed.
That's slick.
Because the crowdfunding thing was so successful, they they could tell that there's a lot of interest in the movie. Because I had never made a movie before, so I'm an unknown making a movie about this punk rock record label, and it raised $35,000. So people were like, "Oh, well, there must be something here." So yeah. So yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, Shaun, how distributors found out about the documentary. You did the crowdfunding, but like, how did they see it? Was that done through social media? Was it just grassroots campaign? I'm just kind of fascinated about how it was able to be.
There was definitely a social media side, but because we hit our goal so quickly, there was a lot of press that talked about us, and we had a network of like punk rock blogs that talked about the movie. And a lot of the reason we got distribution is because there's a lot of Fat Records fans that work for different distributors. In fact, we ended up going with a company called The Orchard. They've since been bought out, but our point of contact had contributed to the crowdfunding thing. So like it was like, and the same thing with the film festivals. I think we played. I didn't go to all of them, but the film played at like 18 film festivals, I believe. 12, I think it's 18, and. That had a lot to do with the fact that, one, if you get into certain film festivals, the programmers all talk and they say, hey, this is a good one. But a lot of times what happened is there was a Fat Records fan on the review board, and they would be like, oh, a Fat Records documentary? This is going in. And it was made well. It was shot real well, and we did some fun stuff with like puppets, and it was, really, I like to think creatively done. So I think it was like, it was well produced, but also it was about a topic that a lot of these people really cared about. So they're in the upper echelons of media. There's a lot of Fat Records fans, and so
no, I am not familiar with a lot of the bands on there. I still found it to be a very insightful documentary, and I was interested about how people that didn't really know how to run a record label create one of the biggest labels in the punk genre. That was really fascinating to me, and
That's
how
awesome.
it was like very, very much like a family, and you deal with like these people who are musicians who also are family members and trying to run a business. I was more interested in that side of it because I heard about some of the bands, but I don't follow them as closely as other friends of mine do, which is really ironic because I do play drums in a semi-punk band. So
That's awesome.
very kind of weird right there. They have me as a drummer for that, but I'm not really familiar with the genre.
Well,
Why am I getting calls here? Hold on. Wait, why am I getting calls here? Sorry about that.
You're good.
I don't know why someone was trying to give me calls on something. Like, I got a call on my... Sorry about that, folks. We had a little bit of a distraction there. Because someone was trying to... Hold on here. I don't know why this is calling in here. Alright, folks. We got in trouble call here. Hold on. Hello? Hello? Alright, well... Hi? Okay, well, I gotta go. Okay, I'm in a call right now. Alright? I don't know who you are. You're pretty, but I gotta go. Okay, that was weird.
That was amazing.
What is going on here? I was the person on here. This is so weird. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm in an interview right now. I gotta go. No, why? I want to end this. Okay. All right, you can't see what happened there on your screen, Shaun, but I get a call from someone, and it's a really pretty girl, and all she is just texting me like, "Hi, I see you. Do you see me?" I'm like, "Yes, I see you. You're very pretty, but I can't talk to you right now. I have a interview right now." Wow, that was just so weird. I'm so sorry, Shaun.
It's okay, man. I don't mind. I go over punches, baby.
All right. So, getting back to the documentary Fat Rich Record, enjoyed that. Now, you mentioned earlier too, Shaun, that you were an audio engineer before the documentary.
Yeah, me and my buddy, we play in punk rock bands, and we figured it'd be a good idea to learn how to record ourselves. So we went to school for audio engineering and started a little studio called Dang Studios, and then spun off a little tiny little record label called Dang Records. And that's actually where I made a lot of my initial connections through those blogs that I was talking about earlier
Mm-hmm.
when we launched the movie. So it although that wasn't very successful financially, I mean, glad we put out some records, but it really led to the success of the movie because it had us. We were tapped into that network because we had done the record label, so we knew people nationwide and that kind of thing. So it's that, all the. I like to say no effort is ever wasted.
That's good. Okay, so you actually have recorded other bands too and released albums from them, or have you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Smaller bands, no, not huge bands, but I think we have about 9 or 10 bands that we put out via Dang Records, and we're still semi-active. We should have moved to a more. We put stuff out from our band on the record label, of course, but I think last year, might even be 2 years now. We put out a song and a video for this band called Mother Falcon.
Okay.
Rather than doing whole albums, it was more of like, hey, we can do the video, we can record the song, and just do a one-off kind of thing. Which smaller commitment, but also like it's something the bands could use because we're not signing them and we're going to do everything for them. But make sure they get a good recording, a good music video, and a little support. So it's also nice when someone's like, hey, I like your band, I want to help you. So it's also a nice thing to do. So yeah, we did that for a while. So and we still play in bands. I have a show on Friday.
Okay. I mean, because I'm kind of curious now, because when like watching the documentary Fat Wreck, most of the promotions were taking place before the internet, and now everything you can like stream songs and share things easier and whatnot. Do you find that hinders or hurts trying to market records that are being made or music being made?
I mean, it's the conundrum, right? Because it means it's easy to get good recording. Not easy, but I mean, saying it's accessible. Yeah. It's accessible to make good recordings. You can make pretty solid music videos. They're just the tools are out there to do all these things. It's just breaking through the noise is really challenging. As a record label, it's really on the back burner. So I don't want to make it seem like it's something I'm doing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
As a person in a band, using TikTok and utilizing those things, aren't for us haven't been gangbusters, but we are getting some, people watching some stuff. So I think it depends on what your intention is. If you want to find an audience, there's been no better way that you can actually tap into audiences. The problem is that everyone else can too. So it's, trying to differentiate yourself and locate that audience and build a relationship with an audience can be, the tools are there, but it's harder because there's just so much more stuff. So,
gotcha. I see that.
In the Fat Records doc, a lot of the people found out about bands were those, like compilations that they would see at different shows and different things like that. But nowadays, it's really like I think a lot of TikTok is where people find music, and Instagram, and places where you're seeing that it's not just the music, it's maybe clips of the music, short clips of the music, or showing that the band's funny, or showing that you have to do so many other things than just make music. It has to be like a whole thing. So
whole thing there, definitely.
Yeah.
Very, very cool thing, Shaun. Now, I do want to talk to you a little bit about your most recent documentary, Age of Audio. Can you tell our listeners just what is this documentary about? Is it just like audio dramas, podcasts?
Well, it's about the podcast industry, and it leans
Okay.
heavily toward the narrative-driven, audio documentary side, like This American Life, Radio Lab.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of like some of the other ones off the top of my head, but it's more that highly produced narrative-driven. But the movie also does a little bit of the history of podcasting, where about the history of RSS and where the technology came from and what the open source nature of that means. It focuses in on like Serial and what led to Serial, the kind of the breakout podcast, and
Sure.
and kind of gauges some of the impact of the podcast boom that happened in the last 5-6 years. So it is about audio storytelling through the medium of podcasts, but does so So we're not really talking a lot about Joe Rogan or things like that.
Sure,
It's mostly
sure.
like on this particular side. And of course, he's been in the podcast game a long time, but Kevin Smith is in the movie.
Okay.
We also have Fred Armisen makes a tiny little appearance.
Oh, nice. He's a punk rock drummer too in his own right too.
Yeah, he's I have friends who make punk rock docs, and I got in touch with him through a friend that makes punk documentaries. That he was in one of his documentaries, so I was able to. But he also does this Ira Glass impression that he did for SNL, and so I talked to him about that briefly. I mean, it'll just be. I got him in there for a gag, basically.
Oh, fun. Okay, fun.
But it's cool because he's Fred Armisen, and it's cool that to have him in my movie. But he's not like. It's just a piece. I like the movie's really about the podcasters.
And I'm just kind of curious too, Shaun. I mean, what made you want to do a documentary about podcasting, about the history of podcasts?
Well, I had been into podcasts. I was a big fan, and I've been listening to I was a fan of This American Life, and really proto podcasting when like bands like NoFX was like Fat Mike would record these things and put them on the website of the Fat Records website. Like I think 2002, 2003 maybe. Same thing with like Propagandhi would also do something similar, like with G7 Records. They used to do it wasn't called a podcast because they were just doing these audio things where they would talk and then put it on their website. But what really happened was I was after I finished the Fat Wreck, I started work on this documentary with this band, Wilhelm Scream, and we were doing some filming with them on the road. And we played in. They were playing in Brooklyn the same night that Propagandhi was playing, and we were going to go to the show, and a friend of theirs and ours named Ben plays for this band called Heart Sounds. He was opening up for Propagandhi and asked us to film because we were filming to film their set, and on our way to Brooklyn, I got a text message from him saying, "Hey, my uncle's coming to the show." I was like, cool. He's like, my uncle's Ira Glass.
Indeed.
So I ended up hanging out with Ira and meeting Ira and hanging out with him at this punk rock show, which is a really interesting thing to have like my favorite punk rock band and one of my favorite storytellers who I never thought would be in the same room together. I never thought I'd meet Ira Glass. It wasn't even my realm of things.
Yeah.
And that was like a cool thing. And that was an amazing thing to happen. And a few days later, we were near Baltimore, and we were recording with this podcaster. His name is Dallas Taylor. Runs a podcast called 20,000 Hertz. Highly recommended. It's stories all about sound, kind of highly produced, narrative-driven, really cool. But he did an episode on the Wilhelm Scream, which is an audio, this audio noise, that sound to scream. That audio sound designers and a lot of films have used, like in Star Wars and Indiana Jones and movies, and it's all over the place.
You'll know when you hear it. It's very iconic. Yes.
So I was talking to him, and another piece of the puzzle is on my first movie. There's this podcaster named Roman Mars who runs this podcast called 99% Invisible, and I had sent the punk rock doc to him because he's kind of a punk rock guy. And he had said some nice things, and we used those nice things he said as pull quotes on the back of our Blu-ray. So there's like a connection there. And so Dallas, who runs the 20,000 Hertz podcast, also knows Roman. And after I told him the story of running into Ira Glass at the punk rock show, he turned to me and he was like, "You know Roman, and now you know Ira Glass. Why aren't you making a podcast documentary? Do you cuss on your podcast?"
You can say what the fuck you want.
Okay. So I was like, fuck you.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, fuck you. Now I have to make that documentary, or at least try, because I hadn't put two and two together. And he was like, and I was still in the beginning stages of working on this other one. So that's why I was kind of saying, fuck you. Because I was like, oh, now I have to start working on a second documentary at the same time. And I didn't really think that I was going to start it. So I kind of reached out to Roman and asked if he would be in it, and I held on Ira because I wanted to talk to him once we got started rather than reach him out in the beginning. But Roman said he would do it, and then a month or two later, I was at South by Southwest because I live in Dallas, so I usually go down to South by Southwest. I drive Uber and Lyft to make money on the side, or kind of a main source of income sometimes. And so I go down there, drive, and usually something's happening, so I'll end up, either meeting people and then, but if not, I can drive. And I ran into my sales agent for a Fat Wreck when I was down there. And I was telling him about the documentary I was making with the Wilhelm Scream, and he was like, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." He's like, "Is there anything else that you are going to try and work on?" And I was like, "Well, I got this idea for a podcast documentary, and I got this guy, Roman Mars, who said he would do it. And I ran into Ira Glass. And he's like, "Dude, I can get money for that." And I was like, "Okay, that's exciting, but terrifying, because once again, I was kind of going to wait till I got the other documentary done."
Sure.
But the next day, and some people who are into podcasting might recognize PRX. They were doing their meetup. They're like a podcast distribution company. And they were doing a meetup at South by. So I basically, the first day, my buddy was like, "Yeah, I think I can get money for that." And then I went to this meetup, and then within 20 minutes, I had pitched some of the major, like iHeart, Stitcher, PRX, and pitched all their representatives on the idea for the podcast doc, and they were all on board. And they basically were like, "Here, email me. I'll get you connected with some people that you need to talk to." And so basically within a matter of like 2 or 3 months, the movie went from just being an idea to like happening. And then I reached out to Roman, and I was like, "Hey, they were doing this tour." And so I reached out to Roman, and that within a month of that, I think it was like March, April, I think it might have been the next month, we flew out to Boston, and I started just laying tape. And we didn't do any interviews, but we were basically started making the movie. So, so that's kind of like the genesis, if you will.
This is amazing how this whole thing just is coming together through meeting one person that he knows this other person, and just it's all happening. Now, was this happening towards the end of filming Fat Rex, or like distributing it?
No, Fat Wreck was out, had been out.
It was out, okay.
I would say it probably had been out for maybe a year.
Okay.
Happening.
But we still like doing the festival circuit when you started pre-production on Age of Audio, or? No,
festivals we had done prior to being released. And
it was out, okay.
It came out the end of 2016, like the holiday season of 2016.
Sure.
And then it was out for about a year, and I think when I ran into the Wilhelm guys and started working on that was late 2017, and then we started filming Age of Audio in 2018. So it had been out for, I would essentially a year. And yeah, all the festival stuff was done. I had run into the Wilhelm guys at a punk rock festival, like Fest, basically down in Florida, and that's when we had talked about doing a Wilhelm Scream doc. When it really wasn't a music doc. It's really a doc about what does it take to be a modern day working class creative. And so we ended up talking to like their community and their parents and some of their kids and their significant others. And that movie is really about not just a band, but as a mid-level artist, what does it take for that to keep happening long term? And it's about the love and community and that takes. So that was almost done.
Okay.
But Age of Audio really took, because it's such a bigger movie in a lot of ways, as far as like the potential reach, and also the interest is really big. With Age of Audio, I've already been talking with film festivals and distributors, and have had people that are very interested in the movie once it's done. So this one's, this one, I think I might have a similar repeat with a Fat Wreck, because within the media landscape, like there's a lot of people in media that like podcasts. So like once again, I think I'll be tapping into like passion of a thing that people love.
It's kind of a first of its kind too, doing a documentary about podcasts. And as a podcaster myself, I am very much interested in learning about the history, and also looking to find ways to better promote our show and our brand. And I think it's very kind of fascinating to see.
Here's what I'll say: you're already gonna be you're gonna have a special credit in the movie already. Like you, it's like
I will.
100%.
Oh, thank you, man.
No, I'm gonna have like especially these early podcasts that had me on, I'm gonna have a special section that'll say the name of your podcast, your name, and the name of your podcast, or even the website if we want. Like, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to like. I mean, you didn't do that.
Oh, thank you.
You didn't have me on for that reason. It's like for me, that seems like an easy thing to do is give credit to you guys. Any
Oh, I
podcasters
appreciate that.
that had me on prior to really being like out and a big thing, and you didn't do that with the intention of being a part of it. But that's my anyone who is helping me out, man. The one thing I can definitely do is give a little cross promotion, you know.
What I think is absolutely kind of a cool thing too, Shaun, is that you mentioned that you are a Lyft slash Uber driver as well as being a filmmaker. And I've interviewed other directors who actually have full other side jobs. I interviewed director Jill Gavar-Gizian
Yeah,
from The Stylist. Her
yeah.
main job is actually a hairstylist. That's her main source of income,
Mm, that's
is doing
awesome.
that.
I also
And
I also rent out some cars on Turo. If you know what Turo is.
I believe vaguely, but not. I heard. I know
Kind of
about car
like
rental services.
kind of like Airbnb for cars, essentially.
Like, oh, gotcha. Okay. Now, would you ever do a documentary about Lyft or Uber?
No,
No. Okay, fair enough. Okay,
no,
now you're
no.
going.
I have a short film script in mind about an interaction that I had um, that stuck with me. And at this point, I've been doing it for. I started doing it after I finished doing a Fat Wreck, and it was a. Where I live in Dallas. I live like near downtown, so I'm right in the middle of where everything is. So I eventually switched all my cars to like decent high end luxury cars. So try to make the most money you can make with it. So it's pretty lucrative. But at this point I've done like 20,000 rides, something like that.
Okay. Uh, I will ask you this, Shaun. Since you are a documentary filmmaker, has there been any documentaries that you watched in the past that really kind of influenced you into want to do this, or do you have a certain type of
Yeah,
like films that you watched that you're like, no, I want to start directing because of these, or do you
yeah.
just kind of fall into it?
There's a. Hadn't really thought about documentary until I saw the documentary that got me want to make a documentary was a documentary called Indie Game. It was one of the first crowd-funded films ever, and it went to Sundance. It's about these two indie game developers, and it kind of follows them as they lead up to launching on Xbox Live, like the Xbox platform, basically.
Hmm.
And it was done. It's the time when DSLRs were starting to hit the market, so that it looked gorgeous. They had there's these great sliding shots, and it was like, I mean, I can still in my mind picture like gorgeous shots that I remember from the film, and I've never done this before with like almost any piece of media. I watched the documentary, and then immediately watched it again. Like I watched it,
Hmm.
and then I
Yeah.
started it over and watched it again. And I was watching for the technique, and then I watched it a third. Sorry, I want to kick my chair.
No, no.
I watched it a third time
Hmm.
after that to get the story structure because I was like, I want to know what they're doing. And what was really cool about this particular documentary, because it was crowdfunded, the filmmakers, what they did is they did like a case study on their website. Because what happened when I started making my documentary, I went on Twitter and I reached out to the filmmaker. I was like, "Hey, what equipment did you use?" And they're like, "Oh, we have all that on our website," and like sent me to a link, and it was like everything that they used. They documented everything that they did. They said we sent 45,000 emails. We did so not 45,000. It was some kind of crazy number of emails.
Sure, sure.
So many interactions. They responded to anyone that reached out to them on on social media. They were
Hmm.
transparent. They talked about like how the distribution went. They talked about the production. It was like a full. Like exactly like how they did it, and I remember because after I saw that, I remember iPhone was out. I remember being under my blanket late at night, like just reading through how they did it, and how they did the crowdfunding, and how they made the movie, and just reading through their case study and being like, I could do this. Like I could definitely do this. So that movie was like a big influence. I ended up when we did our crowdfunding thing. They had also crowdfunding. I think they did Kickstarter.
Okay.
But one of the filmmakers ended up working with Indiegogo as like a mentor. thing. And so they connected me. I ended up getting to talk with one of the co-directors of that documentary about my documentary when we had our successful crowdfunding thing, which was kind of a cool little like thing. And I didn't. It was just random.
Oh, wow.
It was just random that it ended up being one of them. And I was like, no, your movie was the one that made me think to make a documentary, that I could make a documentary. I was like, this is gorgeous, and I think I could do it, you know. And I love the way the structure was, and I really and the fact that they had it displayed that, and was like, and you can go to, anyone could do that now, like they still have it up, like if you wanted to see how they did it. Indie Game, I don't know if with their website I specifically, but Indie Game the movie on the interwebs. So yeah, I mean, I had always loved. I wasn't one of those. I loved film, but I wasn't someone who was like, oh, I'm gonna be a filmmaker when I grow up. Like I want to be a filmmaker. I want to be a filmmaker. And like, I mean, to be honest, my back catalog of classic films is kind of like that I've seen is kind of light.
Sure.
When I did get into film,
I don't know.
Oh no, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh no.
You should be good.
Yeah. Okay. So I got a phone call, and it paused it for a second. What I was going to say was I was talking about Indie Game the movie, and then I was talking about I lost my train of thought. I was going to tell you something.
And then you were able to interview the filmmakers who made the movie. And
not interview them. I didn't interview them. They were mentors, like
mentors. Okay.
Kind of thing. I got a chance to talk to them about what I was going to do the next step and things like that. And then what was I going to say? So they did that. Oh gosh, I'm blanking now. Oh man, that really threw me off.
No. No.
No,
It's okay.
Yeah.
To introduce what Magic Mind does.
After the segue.
What Magic Mind does, it boosts energy and focus, crush procrastination, and elevate mental clarity. There it is right there. I'm holding it. It's a wonderful shot. It tastes great. You go to their site. Use the link magicmind.com/cinema recall. Use the promo code cinema recall 20 and get a discount on your purchase. So again, magicmind.com/cinema recall. Use the code cinema recall 20, all uppercase, and get a discount on your first order package there. But yeah, and I use it because I get very kind of groggy in the morning, and it definitely helps me and maintain my focus and make sure that I have all my thoughts put together, because it's a double mess in there sometimes, and I need something like Magic Mind to do that. So that's their little promo ad spot right there. Also, forgot to mention too that you can find us on a whole bunch of different podcast platforms, but I do want to talk real briefly about Newsly. Newsly is an all-in-one audio app for your iOS and Android phone, to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable. Stop scrolling, start listening, go to newsly.me, use the promo code RECALL, and get 1 month free of their audio services. Hoping you can find Mr. Shaun Colon on other great podcasts through Newsly, but there we are. There's our promo ad spots. So thank you very much.
All right. Well done. That was well done.
Yeah.
That was impressive. I'm really impressed with the way you did that. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. But we are going to take a little ad. Well, one more thing too, Shaun. I got to do one little ad spot break. This is for our podcast listeners, because I want to play some ad spots from some other amazing podcast shows that you should definitely check out, all right? So we're going to take a little break for our podcast listeners, not our YouTube watchers. It'll go right back to the show. It'll be like we went through a time warp, and now we're back, all right? So little music here. And we're back to Cinema Recall Podcast. I'm here with documentary filmmaker Shaun Colon. He did Fat Rex. He has The Age of Audio. I don't know, is Age of Audio in the midst of post-production now, or we finished up that one? It has been...
Yeah, no, we're in post. We may be doing a little more production as well.
Okay.
We're in the... I mean, today, I'm not sure when you release, but we are on mid-November, which, as far as right now, is about 10 days away. But
Okay.
we're going to be launching a crowdfunding campaign in order to raise the funds to finish out the movie and possibly do a few follow-up interviews, and then hopefully get it out the door. Right now, we have like about an hour-long cut of the film. There's a bunch of stuff that's been edited over the last few years, but there's as I have a wife and a kiddo, and obviously I do the driving thing, which is hard to edit when you're driving.
Sure.
So we are trying to raise the funds so I can focus full time on just getting the movie out the door. I have an editor that I'm working with as well. We're kind of partner editors, and so and then there's lots of other like just technical things that have to be done with the movie, sound, color. There's like legal stuff and just like a lot of like costs. So we'll be launching a crowdfunding thing on Indiegogo here. Like I said, mid-November is what we're shooting for. So, and we should, if we're able to do that, I think we should be able to when the crowdfunding thing is successful, kind of manifest, we should be able to have the film done within a matter of months.
So
at least to have it ready for festivals, if that makes sense. And so, hopefully, the movie comes out sometime next year. If we do our job right and we're able to get it done, hopefully it comes out within the first quarter of the year to festivals, and then it'll probably have to go through a process of there's legal and all that stuff. So maybe by the end of the year, I'm not making any promises because these things take forever. But yeah, that's what we're shooting for. I would love to have the movie done. I've been working on it for almost 6 years now. So
yeah,
I would love to wrap it up and get it out into the world and let people see all the cool stuff we put together.
I would love if you could come to Minnesota, because there's a few film festivals out here. There's the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival, and then there's the Twin Cities Film Festival.
There's also Sound Unseen up there.
That's true, yes.
I'm really good friends with the programmers at Sound Unseen as well. So,
okay.
And I mean, really, really good friends. They screened our Fat Wreck up there and brought me up there and treated me real good. So there's a pretty strong chance it'll go to that film festival.
Right. Yeah, and there's also a lot of other great independent film theaters for you to show your movie there, and maybe we do a premiere.
I would love to do some. I want to do what I did with a Fat Wreck and do some festival screenings, and then with a Fat Wreck, we did 70 small screenings around the world. It's independent theaters and some like rock venues. So I would love to this film to like be shown at some art house theaters, some smaller theaters, but also at like podcaster meetups of people when podcasters meet in 20 or 30 or more. You could throw up a screen, serve some drinks, either for free or charge a little bit of a cover if it's a bar. I mean, I'm open to lots of different ways of getting the movie in front of people before it hits like streaming stuff and things like that. I would, if the crowdfunding thing does well enough, maybe we could, if it goes beyond what our needs are to just finish the movie, might have a budget to travel to all these places and do Q&As at all of them and bring in some of the podcasters and maybe do a little podcast as part of the screening, like a live, a semi-live podcast kind of thing before the screening. I'm riffing now.
Let me know when. I mean, we'd love to come down and do a little podcast interview with everyone there.
I just thought of that just now. That was right off the dome. Now I'm banking that as an idea. But the idea being that before the movie comes out to the wider audience, that the people who are most interested in it, we give them the opportunity to see it in either because there's a lot of small towns that don't have theaters, and but there's podcasters there. You know what I mean? And if people gather in more than 15 or 20 people, I think it's worth it to do little like one-off screenings, as long as it's got to be a little bit of trust there, but it's whatever.
So. Well, does Open-Ended Films, your film company, do they have like a Patreon page? Or
not yet.
Okay, because I mean, it would be a great opportunity to maybe have maybe some bonus like footage that's not available in a documentary, or like behind the scenes footage, or
what we'll likely do is do something similar This is all unofficial, so like like we
Sure.
haven't decided anything particular yet. But Indiegogo, once the campaign ends, it allows you to have an ongoing thing. So we may have like an ongoing thing that we allow people to like contribute to that to get access to like behind the scenes stuff, full length interviews that we did because we did
Yeah.
like a lot. We did like 45 interviews. So like, and they're like with Ira Glass and Kevin Smith and all these cool people.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and only portions of those are going to end up the movie. So maybe access to some of these events and definitely behind the scenes and some mini documentary stuff that we're probably going to do. But like additional small documentaries, like a behind the scenes documentary, or maybe something that's in the movie but didn't make sense to stay in the movie, so we put it as bonus stuff. I think I did no less than 4 mini documentaries on a Fat Wreck. So
Okay. Yeah.
there's one about the subculture that's like I think 20 minutes. There's one about our trip out to California called 20 Hours to Get Rad, which you should seek out if you like. If you watched a Fat Wreck, you should watch 20 Hours to Get Rad. It's a cool little making of. We even did
Well,
we
nice.
even in the middle of the BTS documentary, we did an action sequence. We filmed like this
Oh.
action sequence. Like we just went out and like
Oh.
just went on the beach. It was like got up early one morning and just went out and like made this little action. It's not great, but we have to defuse a bomb because like anyway, you guys.
Oh, it's epic. That's epic.
Like,
I love that.
we did the
Oh.
Michael Bay like camera move where it's spinning around and like
Oh.
I even added a little like explosion. Like some SFX explosions like.
This Sean, did that like whet your appetite to do like a narrative feature, like a feature film with a story? Would you ever like work
I'm
with a screenwriter?
definitely gonna do I'm not definitely gonna do one, but definitely have plans for one. It's kind of
Sure.
everything builds on it. We have an idea for a feature that we want to do. We may do a short with it first, but it's kind of like yeah. Documentaries are you can just start them.
Hmm.
Features, you have to really get the money and really get everything mostly up front. With documentary, I can start a documentary just by, like I said, just flying out to Boston, start filming with Roman Mars's like thing, and boom, I'm making a
Yeah.
documentary, and the cost is relatively low.
Sure.
With and the kind of feature that we want to do, it's going to take some funds. So we're kind of building up to things. So if our first movie was fairly successful for what it was, it made its budget and then some back.
Sure.
And it made the people who gave us money up front, our distributor, they made all their money back, and then they started making money. Not a lot, not talking about lots of money, but it was in the black, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So if Age of Audio, if we're able to parlay that into a good space, and like I said, you never know what doors are going to open from what you make, but like there's a lot of people who make television and film that love podcasts. So the chances of someone seeing our film that is in that space is high. That doesn't mean anything's going to happen. It just means opportunities may present themselves
That's
if we're
true.
successful. So
I mean, a lot of documentary filmmakers have been going on to make feature films. Look at Terry Swigoff. He did Crumb, and then he went on to make Ghost World and Bad Santa. So
right.
who knows?
So
Yeah.
we're. I mean, I consider ourselves filmmakers. I don't.
Sure.
People call me a documentarian sometimes because I've made documentaries, but I'm a filmmaker, and documentaries are
Yeah.
what I can make, and to
Sure.
make the most sense, and it's something that I don't have to wait for a gatekeeper to tell me whether or not I can do it. So
Yeah.
that's why I really have loved documentary. But after I finish this movie, and then I finish the other movie is going to be called Anchor Ends with the S.
Sure.
And with once that movie is going to be probably going to be a smaller movie, but the core audience is I think really going to love it. And after that, I plan on not making documentaries for a couple of years. I'm going to focus on making some shorts. I have some short script ideas that I want to attack. Not, you know what I mean? It's kind of, I think I could put out and do relatively inexpensively. And my buddy Taylor, who is making the Getting Lost documentary. Some of your fans may have heard of that. They just did a crowdfunding thing that was very successful. And he also did the Pick It Up Ska in the '90s documentary, Taylor.
Okay, yeah, I remember Chris Revel talking about
Yeah,
that
he's doing
one.
his
So,
first feature. I think it's called Batpire or something like
oh no,
that.
yeah, okay.
And it's his first feature, so he's now doing features, and he did
Wait,
many documentaries, and he's moving into that space.
yeah, there's something very like DIY and like punk about doing documentaries because you're basically kind of doing everything yourself, and you're working with a small group of people. You don't have to answer to any like big studios or big heads. You just get an idea. You find other people who are passionate about the same idea. It's like forming a band. Like you with your
Yeah,
crew, your editor, and your camera people, and mic and sound. You're forming your own little band right there, and
it's
you're
very similar to a
basically
podcaster.
yeah, podcaster like punk music right there. You just grab just right. No, fuck it. I'm gonna have this idea, and I'm gonna go out there and shoot it, or do music on it, or just whatever the elements are, and you are just doing it yourself. And like I'm gonna go through all these channels, and I'm gonna get as much people to watch or listen to our shows and everything. And it's very inspiring. It's got this very much punk attitude, which I very much enjoy.
Well, it's that thing is there's a lot of people who wait to do things, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
look at what resources do you have, what can you do, and you can like work within those confines, you know what I mean, and you can make stuff like like I said, I can't make the feature that I probably would want to make because I just don't have the resources for it right yet. But we can probably make a short at some point about it and do something smaller and to do the concept. That's probably something we could do. And what I've noticed is my experience is like when you're passionate about something and you have a little bit of skill, you don't have to be the most skilled, but you have to, I think, a few, like, you have to have some skill level. But if you can
Sure.
do that, like, people will want to start helping you, especially like there's lots of things that I'm not great at, but I did it anyway and to the best of my ability. And then some people will say, hey, that's pretty good. That's what I know how to do that. You want me to do that with you? Can I help you? And people will start offering help because they see like, because a lot of people that have like a deep skill at something, they just don't necessarily have the time or the wherewithal to get a big project like that moving. But when they see that
Mm-hmm.
project moving and someone has, initiated and there's movement on it, it's like, oh, I would like to help with this. And I'm starting
Yeah.
to see that now with the Age of Audio documentary, because if you go to our website, it shows, which is aoamovie.com. There's information about the movie and who's in it, but then there's also these links to like, hey, do you want to help? Click on this, and there's a form you can fill out. Or do you have a podcast and want to be included? Oh, here's a form you can fill out. Oh, are you a celebrity or a big podcaster? Like, oh, here's a form you can fill out and reach out, and we can see about, I don't know where things will fit, but I do know that a big part of the success with a Fat Wreck was so many people reached out that wanted to help out,
That's beautiful.
and it's because it's like, oh, somebody's making this thing about something I love, and oh, look, all these people I love are in this movie. How can I be associated? I would love to help out with this. And so,
Sure.
that like getting, and I pay creatives that I work with, but you can't get someone involved in something like this if they're doing it for money. They have to be doing it because they feel compelled to help and feel compelled to
Sure.
work on something like this. And then you try and find them some compensation if you can.
Mm-hmm.
I try to. I believe creatives should be paid, even if it's a lot. If it's not enough, it should be something.
Fairly compensations, yes.
Yeah, like I may not be able to pay people what their value is, but it's
Okay.
at least, hey, I would never ask someone a creative to do anything for free. But on the other movie, I had some motion graphic artists that had won like technical Emmys for like commercials and things like that begged me to work on the movie for free. They
Oh,
make
nice.
because they make a lot of money doing what they do, but it's corporate and they don't get a lot of creative freedom. And here I'm like, oh, here, have some creative freedom. And they're like, oh, excellent. I don't need money. I have money. I need a way to take these skills that I have and applying to something that I give a shit about. And
And plus, you're
like,
helping them out too because you're able to show their creativity on screen. You give credit, and so other people can see that. Oh, okay, this is what they do, and we like to hire
right,
them for other
and it
projects.
gets on their resume, and they're
Mm-hmm.
associated with it, and they can then use the movie to elevate their things that they're doing and show, oh no, I did this for this movie. And especially if it's a movie that they care about, like it's a nice. So like that's been my experience, and that's why like I mean I don't the things that I've decided to make movies about, I'm tapping into something that I care passionately about. And if I care about it the way I care about it, there's got to be other people that do. And when they, like I
Yeah.
said, when they see someone, taking the flag and running with it and being like, oh man, I would love to do that. I'm glad someone's doing it.
And Shaun, this has been so cool too, and I've been having such a great time talking to other filmmakers who are passionate about their work, and this is what I love very much about doing this podcast, is the
Yeah.
fact that I get people who are really passionate and love their stuff, and they may not be like super big as other filmmakers, but I really want for my audience to find people who love film and people who want to create films, is have me interview other filmmakers who love the stuff, to inspire them to go, hey, I can do this. Look, here's the guy. He still works a full time job as a Lyft Uber driver. He's making a movie. I can do the same thing too. So it doesn't matter where you are in life. Like, I do this podcast, but I work at Cup Foods as in the bakery department.
Yeah.
So, but I still do this.
No,
So,
hey,
yeah,
we're all multi-hyphenates. And if you go up, there is very few creatives that the only thing they do is that one thing. There are a few people that do it, but most, and I'm talking even people who are widely successful, a lot of actors, they then start producing stuff. Like a lot of, if they have success, or they start making their own thing, or they,
yeah.
like, and then they do this, you have the comedian that's doing some kind of show, some kind of game show. But that's to help pay for when they're in between during the film that they want to do. There's all these, that concept of that all you do is one thing is just not the way the world has ever really worked. There's been very few artists that they just do Picasso, dude. Picasso had a mass-produced art factory for like mass-produced art for homes and things like that, where he had people in a thing like assembly line art that wasn't one-off, that was mass-produced. You know what I mean? But it was designed to be like not one-offs. Something that's the same thing. It's like I think this is what I say. You're a creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're right, and you're like, I'm a starving artist. I don't know how to make any money. Like, how creative are you? You have your creativity in your art, right? But you can also be creative in the ways that you develop, alternate incomes. I got into Uber and Lyft because it was kind of accessible. I like cars. I like driving. And I also have found with Turo, now I have a way to have backup cars if something were to happen to one of my cars for Uber and Lyft, I used to have a backup car. And then I also get to have these other cars that I like. I enjoy them because I'm a fan of cars. So I can justify having these other cars because they're generating revenue for me. So I'm able to that's something that I'm not as passionate as I am about creating and making art, but it's something that I care about. I like cars, and so I'm able to combine these things, I'll tell you this. When I was doing, one of the things that's cool about Lyft is that you can do it in different states. You can just drive into another state, and as long as you're meeting the local laws, you can turn your thing on and start making money. So we were filming in Detroit. We were working on that Wilhelm thing, and I was gone from home for almost a month working on this documentary. But in the mornings when we were in Detroit, I'd go do a little bit of Lyft and, maybe make $60-$70 that would cover our food and our fuel costs for the day.
Oh, nice.
I when we were down in New Bedford with the Wilhelm Scream, that's where those guys are from. They're about a 20-25 minute drive from Providence, which some of your Chris Revel and some of your friends may know. So
Chris Prime podcast, out to them.
So I would drive down to Providence for every day for 2 weeks in the morning, and drive for the morning, and then in the afternoon we go shoot our interviews and do all the other stuff we got to do. And I had a way to generate income that day for that day. You know what I mean? And it didn't fully cover the whole cost of going, but it offset costs. Also, I got to learn about Providence and drive around in Providence, so I know the different parts of the city in Providence now. I know where the college is. I know where the the different cool little like out parts are. So it's like it's that be creative and find the things that you care about and figure out ways to make the art. Now, one of the reasons I like the Uber and Lyft thing is because I can hop in and out. Last year, I had to go to Austria for a month to work on a project, and I could just put down Uber and Lyft for a month. And now they were paying me to be out there, so I know what I'm worth because I know what I could make driving Uber and Lyft. And if you want me to do something and leave, you have to pay me at least what I would make, you know, doing this, if that doing the Uber and Lyft thing. So it really, you know, there are tough parts of it. The cars wear down over time. There's potential for accidents are there. So it's not all, you know, no risk, but it's a way that I've found to be able to make movies. If I need to take time, I can work it as little or as much as I need. I can work, you know, 10 hours in a week, or I can work 70 hours in a week if I need to. It's flexible and has allowed me to continue making movies. So it's, and I like cars. I have cool cars that I like. So, anyway.
and plus, you like, it seems very much, Shaun, that you do like talking to people and listen to their stuff too. And you never know, one of the people you pick up may have a story that may inspire you to maybe do something in the future. You're not quite sure, or something like that.
Or it's a way to, not with everybody, but like people ask me what I do, so it comes up that I make documentaries from time to time, and I get to kind of like see what regular people, when I say regular people who aren't into podcasts, people who aren't into punk rock, people who have no connection with these things, how they respond when I tell them about the movies that I'm making. So it's a little bit of, you know, testing. That's how I know that nobody knows who Ira Glass is. Nobody. It's like maybe almost nobody knows who. No one knows who Kevin Smith is, and no one knows who Fred Armisen is. We all do, but most people do not.
Probably true,
I mean? No, and so you get to see, like, when I throw out names, I get to see what resonates with people. So it's like a little bit of market testing as well. In an interesting way. It's a sociology, you know, aspect to it. 'Cause you're seeing how people act, and like I said, out of those, I mentioned before, I've done about 20,000 rides at this point. And not all of those are, like, I don't have a lot of stories, but there's at least one that came out of that I'm definitely going to, like, I think I mentioned this earlier, that I'm going to make a short about. So yeah, so it's, you're out and about, you're in the world. It's like, you know, and for me, I don't, like I said, I can drive for hours and hours and hours and not get tired of it, especially because I have like this really cool Lexus that I'm driving around with the red interior and all that stuff. So,
oh, beautiful.
so like, which you make more money with a luxury car. That's how you make more money doing this. So it's like, it's not just nice for me to be driving around a cool car. It actually is like more lucrative to do so. You know, depending on what car you get, and you got to be smart about it. But But yeah, so I think it's one of those things, and that's not for everybody. That doesn't work for everybody. Everyone doesn't live. I'm lucky to live in Dallas, which is very lucrative. I was able to live near downtown, so I'm right where all the stuff is. So, and those were, you know, a little bit of strategy and a shit ton of luck. So,
gosh, that's amazing, Shaun. We are getting close to the end of our show. I want to thank you very much for being on here, Shaun. Now, I have it down here that they can find all the information about the Age of Audio at aoamovie.com.
Yes, and all the socials are AOA Movie. So you can find us on TikTok, you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on Twitter, all AOA Movie. Now, are they able to find links to the Indigo crowdfunding? Is that there as well? If you go to when I launched the crowdfunding thing, AOA Movie will link. It'll probably go directly to the crowdfunding thing for that period of time. There's a lot of information. Okay. So it'll be like what I'm likely going to do is once we launch the crowdfunding thing, AOA Movie will then be redirected to the crowdfunding, which will have all the information that you would find on the website right now. So and also we're going to do a thing. If you're, I don't know how many podcasters listen to your podcast, you know, other podcasters, but we're going to be doing a thing once our trailer comes out. We're designing it to be audio based. You know, it's going to be an audio trailer for the as well. And we're going to do a thing where if you put the trailer in your feed or somewhere in your on your show, we're going to put you like with you. You don't have, you can. I would love it, but you are already getting a special place. But you would be able to be able to be in a special place in the credits of the movie, of the podcast that put our trailer in your, within your feed and shut it to your audience. We're going to make sure that you're not just your name, but the name of your podcast, even if it's a website, exists so people can see, and like, oh, what's that podcast?
Thank you. Well, Shaun, that I will definitely post your ad on our show.
I appreciate
I'll post your trailer on our show. Even on random episodes, I will post it on there once it gets released.
I'll say this. When I do my credits, and if anyone who watches Fat Wreck, and once you get done with it, when I do credits, I do BTS and stuff that didn't make it into the movie. I put that there so you stick around for the credits. You know what I mean?
Sure, beautiful.
And then I'm like, some people rag on the Marvel post-credit scene, but one thing as a creator I appreciate about the Marvel post-credit scene is that it makes people sit through the credits. I don't think that gets talked about enough. They're like, oh, we're gonna have another post-credit. The movie's done. Like, no, it makes people sit in that theater and watch those 30,000 names of creatives. Their names get seen because people are waiting for that thing. And I think that's a powerful thing. I like post-credit things. In Age of Audio, there's definitely going to be a post-credit scene. Once you finish Fat Wreck, you'll get to see the post-credit scene we have in that.
Nice.
And so it's not just that your name will show up in the credits, but most likely there's a high likelihood people might see it because there's going to be a reason to stick around for the credits. So yeah. Anyway.
That's great. That is great, Shaun. Appreciate it very much, and I'll make sure I'll post all our links on our website as well as our show notes. As I said before, on every different places here. cinemarecall.net is a website, but now comes part of the show, Shaun, that I need your help with, buddy. All right, it's really easy to do. I want to give a shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. Again, patreon.com/cinemarecallpod. This will get access to video episodes, full, uncensored, uncut video episodes that happen. I just post them just as they are, and you get to see all the different mishaps, and you get them before anyone else does. Really cool thing. So shout out right now to all of our wonderful Patreon supporters, and just help me out with a little, hooray or whatever you want to say after I say each name, okay?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
So we want to thank Mr. Jason Soto from Rabbit Hole Podcasts.
Fuck yeah!
Linda Castro of Bed Knobs and Broomflits. Jeanette Miller-Mittenham at AKA Jeanette.
Say it one more time. I was talking over you.
Oh, sorry. Jeanette Miller-Mittenham at AKA Jeanette. Donnie Roberts, who does the audio drama series, The Last... Oh, God. He's formerly of Cage's Kiss, and he did write a book, and I just cannot think of the name right now. But Donnie Roberts, he's on Twitter at Unreal Goals. Thank you, Donnie. I'll read the name of your audio drama series, and I apologize. All right. Then Matt and Ashley from Mashley at the Movies.
Thank you so much. You're so rad. I was trying to think of something better.
I love that. We want to thank our buddy Harvey Andrus, who is a great friend of ours and our former guitar player of our No Doubt cover band called Europe's Girlfriend. So thank you, Harvey Andrus.
There's no doubt that he's amazing.
And finally, Jen McQuaid of Shot and Applaud.
Thank you. You're amazing. I am a Patreon. I'm sorry, I just found out your podcast. So I'm not quite a Patreon supporter just yet. But I am. I pay out probably about $60 to $70 in Patreons. I'm a big supporter of different Patreons. I'm someone who thinks that you should always give back. So all of you who are doing that, you are the cream of the crop. You are the top people. You are the people who are directly supporting a creator, and those are some of the best people out there. So, give yourself a round of applause, all these Patreon supporters, because I think you're great. I'm in the club as well for other podcasts. So, we're great. We're the cream of the crop. We're the people who throw down every month to make sure these people can continue making what they're making. So, shout out.
Thank you very much. And the audio drama that Donnie does is called the Deep Sea Anthologies. It's an audio drama anthology series called the Deep Sea Anthologies.
Deep Sea Anthologies!
You and my co-host should meet because she said exactly the same thing. She seems their responses. It's great. I wish she could be here, but she can't be here today. We gotta be back on with you and her. That would be epic.
Please. But when we after we do the crowdfunding thing, and we're starting to make a movie, we should come back and talk about it. It'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be epic. Oh gosh, Shaun, this has been a big blast. Thank you very much for being here. You got any last words to say to the crowd before we end here?
Big shout out to Cinema Recall. Thank you for having me on, and kudos to you for podcasting is hard. Being consistent is hard. Doing all this stuff is hard, and a lot of respect to you, my friend.
One thing I forgot to mention too to the start of the show, please listen to us also on fullswapradio.com Sundays at 8:30 p.m. for their Vanilla Sunday programs. So again, fullswapradio.com. They are a kink and fetish podcast network team. So definitely seek them out. They have really great shows about sets and lifestyles, and we are on their Vanilla Sunday program, so check us out there. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
All right.